It's February the 3rd, 2011, and police find the butchered body of 45-year-old Lorna Smith in a flat in Brixton. They uncover a dark taboo. Her killer has been stalking her over the internet for more than a year, and he thinks he has planned the perfect murder.
He researched it. He thought about what he was going to do, how he was going to do it. Every detail of this murder was planned.
I think it's just evil. It's pure evil.
Britain's Darkest Taboos reveals the shocking real-life stories behind the most horrific acts of familial crime, including murder.
Laura had to witness her own mother being shot dead.
He took our life, and our Alison's, and our Tan's.
Child destruction.
This is one of the most brutal murders I've come across.
He stabbed my daughter and granddaughter.
And incest.
She stopped seeing her father as a father. She starts seeing him as the sexual predator that he is.
I never thought he'd go as far as to rape me, ever in a million years. He was my dad.
Louise Harvey is born on the 4th of February 1989 in Croydon to parents Tony and Lorna.
I was an only child, grew up with my mum and dad. We were definitely a happy family, always laughing, joking around. We were really close. Family was really important to mum.
In 1999, when Louise was 10, her parents, who were childhood sweethearts, get married, and the future looks bright.
When mum and dad got married, all the family came, and it was a really lovely day, like really happy. You know, everyone's smiling. You know, it was nice.
The best man at the wedding is Dad Tony's best friend, Clifford Mills.
Cliff was one of my dad's best friends. They used to go football together, and that's how they knew each other, so they kind of grew a bond through that.
But just 2 years after their fairy tale wedding, Tony and Lorna's marriage breaks down, leaving Lorna and Louise devastated.
I think that really hit her because her and my dad were together for 20 years. So they were like teenage sweethearts, really. So him, you know, seeing somebody else really did affect her a lot. As the months started going by, you know, you could see it was killing my mum inside, and I could hear her upstairs crying. You know, she wasn't eating properly, she lost a lot of weight, and, you know, it was horrible to see her like that. So it kind of, our roles changed. She turned into the child, I turned into the mum.
Psychologist Emma Kenny works with victims of crime in her clinics and recognises the impact her marriage breakdown has on Lorna.
Lorna was feeling vulnerable. She'd lost her husband. She felt like her life had gone through a huge transition. And for many people, just wanting to put things back on track feels very important. So not wanting to be left on the shelf, wanting to belong to another person. And very often when we do this and approach things because we've got low self-esteem and we're trying to fill a gap, we're not actually looking for the best fit, we're looking for any fit.
Lorna had been with her husband for more than 20 years. In the months following the separation, although her relationship with her daughter is her main priority, Lorna feels lonely. She decides to go on the internet, and she tracks down her ex-husband's best friend, Clifford Mills. As Mills had fallen out with Tony, he had lost contact with Lorna a few years earlier. She arranges to meet up with him.
They seemed to get on really well, and they were just, I could hear them laughing about old times and, you know, things like that.
When you reconnect with people from the past, You get to remember what life was like, who you were, the good times, the bad times, but somebody who can kind of go on that journey with you. And even though there have been years in between, that didn't separate them. In some ways, it managed to connect them in that moment.
13-year-old Louise feels as though the relationship is moving too fast.
He kept coming a bit more regular, and like be leaving things behind and not taking it with him. Like he was trying to edge his way in to move in.
Louise and Lorna had a very close relationship, and Louise recognised that Lorna was quite vulnerable, and there was a sense that potentially Mills was preying on that vulnerability.
Clifford Mills has a dark past, but it is one he is not ashamed of talking about.
He was like a football hooligan when he was a lot younger. Like he'd sit and tell me stories about what they used to do, and they used to like start fights. It sounded quite violent.
Forensic psychologist Dr Keri Nixon works with Merseyside Police, profiling violent offenders, and recognises risk factors in Mills' background.
Mills is a very intimidating looking character. He's a doorman. He engages in a lot of macho type activity. He's very proud of the fact that he used to be a football hooligan. He would go to games in the 80s and the 90s and engage in violent behaviour. He's seeking to be a macho individual, a misogynist.
He just used to be like, yeah, in my days, I used to be a right football hooligan, and we used to have fights, and so-and-so got their head smashed in and he got his leg broken, but just a normal thing. He used to laugh at it.
But Lorna seems taken in by Mills, and within 6 weeks of them meeting up again, he moves into the family home.
And I was a bit like, well, it's a bit fast for him to move in.
That is really indicative of a controlling and possessive individual. And the fact that she was at a time of her life where she was so vulnerable, she allowed that to happen. So he got control immediately.
Mills shows his controlling nature early on. Whilst Lorna works full-time, Mills is unemployed and starts exhibiting controlling behaviour.
As soon as she'd walk through the door, he'd be like, get dinner on. And I used to kind of say, oh, why can't he get up and do it? He's got legs. Why do you have to run around? You've been at work all day.
Lorna appears desperate to make this relationship work, even if her beloved daughter has doubts.
She was quite submissive and subservient. Louise felt a little bit let down by her mother because this was somebody who had doted on her and she'd felt very safe with. And all of a sudden, Mills became the centre of attention and Mills started to call the shots.
Whilst Mills makes little effort in his appearance, he expects Lorna to look her best.
He liked my mum to look good, so it made him look good as well.
He wanted her to look nice because that said something about him. He'd managed to attract a beautiful lady, whereas he paid no attention to his image. He was a slob, he was lazy, he would just sit there and expect Lorna to take care of him.
Mills tries to exert control over Louise as well as Lorna.
He used to kind of count the slices of bread to make sure I wasn't having too much, yet he'd go and raid the fridge, and have like chocolate here, there and everywhere.
Louise saw through that bravado, so she could see the hypocrite within, and she really despised it.
Mills blames his controlling behaviour on his alter ego, Stan, a reference to Stan Laurel of Laurel and Hardy, a duo Mills appears obsessed with.
Stan would be his mean side when he was feeling down, and he'd kind of turn around and say, oh, Stan's in the room, which means don't talk to me because I'm not in the mood. Me and my mum used to just sit there and think, what a weirdo, why would you give yourself another name?
Although Louise finds his alter ego odd, psychologist Emma Kenny believes his motives are far more sinister.
When he was having a bad day and was in a bad mood, he would say to Lorna and Louise, oh, Stan's at it again. Now, That isn't somebody who's suffering from a personality disorder, because he was absolutely aware at the time of who he was being and the traits he was displaying. And very rightly so, Louise and Lorna recognised this was an excuse to be as horrible as he wished to be, by compartmentalising his personality, good and bad Cliff, by calling Stan the bad guy and Cliff the good guy. In a way, he excuses his behaviour.
Domestic abuse perpetrators will consistently blame others, whether that's their partner, whether that's their friends, whether it's something that happened to them when they were a child, whether it was an alter ego. In this case, a character. It's not me, Stan's at it.
Over the next 3 years, Louise's relationship with Mills deteriorates.
He used to try and tell Louise what to do and stuff like that, and Louise was like, at the end of the day, you're not my dad, so I'm not, why should I listen to you?
He was trying to wear me down to try and get me out the house.
Mills wanted Lorna around him and only him as often as possible, so he was starting to discourage the time that Louise and Lorna would spend together. And that's really difficult for a young woman to go through. You know, to be an early teen and to see that you're not being allowed to spend quality time with your mother is going to cause some huge anxieties. But it's also going to cause conflict with mother and daughter, because you're looking to your mother to look after you. You want her to recognise that relationship, and you are going to feel angry and jealous when she's spending time with somebody else, because that was a change in their relationship, and a change that clearly Louise, rightly so, wasn't prepared for at the time.
I just had enough, you know, of no one kind of defending me anymore. It was always about them two, nothing about me.
In 2005, at the age of 16, Louise's relationship with Mills and her mum reaches breaking point.
I just ended up packing my bags, and I said I was going to move in with my dad. And he was quite happy and willing to get the car ready and warmed up to take me down there.
Lorna is devastated, but she appears to have been brainwashed by Mills, and she lets Louise move out.
And her mum come in the car with her, and Louise and mum didn't say a word with each other in the car.
And it's clear that at this point she was fully under control of Mills.
Mills discourages Lorna from having any kind of contact with her only child, Louise.
When I moved in with my dad, me and my mum had no contact over about 4 months, which was horrible, because obviously where we were so close before, you know, you miss your mum.
It appears Lorna will do whatever Mills says, and now he has her all to himself.
Louise moved out of the home, and what happened then? Mills was able to control Lorna further. He was able to tell her where she went, what she did, who she saw, without the interference from Louise.
With Lorna's daughter out of the house, Mills's control is about to escalate with terrifying consequences. But will Lorna put her family before her lover?
She's moving on, and that makes him angry. It makes him plan to hurt her.
It's a very cruel way to work. I think it's just evil. It's pure evil.
In his mind, he thinks he's planned the perfect murder.
It's 2005, and Lorna Smith has been in a relationship with her ex-husband's best friend, Clifford Mills, for 3 years. But it has come at a cost. She's not speaking to her 16-year-old daughter, Louise.
I finally made the decision to get back in contact, and I phoned her up and I apologised. I still don't know why it was me that had to apologise, but I did it just so that I could have that contact again with my mum and try and get things back on track.
Louise meets up with her mum, but she's never on her own.
He used to come with her. It was like she was only allowed to see me for like those couple of hours, like she was timed on how long and how much time she could spend with me. And you could see in her face that she didn't want to go, but she didn't like arguing, and she just thought, well, I'll just do anything just for an easy life, really.
Mills was so controlling that he even controlled their daily schedule. He would have a timetable. She had to fit in with his strict schedule. And that's a way of controlling everybody in his life.
He'd be the one that worked out how long they spent where and where they were going and how much money they would spend here. And, it was like she had to go by whatever he wanted to do.
This case is classic domestic abuse. The control, the psychological abuse, the social isolation, this is what offenders do.
By 2006, Lorna has grown tired of Mills' behaviour.
Probably by the time I was about 17, she started to look quite unhappy. I think she was starting to get a bit fed up of being bossed around.
Lorna wants to end the relationship and tells Mills to leave, but he takes the news badly.
He'd kind of like blackmail her, trying to say that he was going to kill himself. He didn't want to be by himself. I think that's why my mum kept him at the house a bit longer, because she felt sorry. She didn't like to say no. Everything was always yeah with my mum.
Lorna agrees to let Mills stay at the house, even though their relationship is over.
Lorna was the type of woman who really avoided confrontation. And the very fact that he starts to say, I want to kill myself, I want to harm myself, she may well have identified with that in the early days of her own breakup. She doesn't want anything bad to happen because she doesn't want to feel responsible for him. That's the kind of nature she has. She's a kind, good, caring woman and mother.
If I threaten I'm going to harm myself, if I threaten I'm going to kill myself, she may take me back. So it's still about control. It's still about trying to get that person to take them back.
Lorna feels sorry for Mills, and over the next 2 years he remains at the house as a lodger, even though he has a flat of his own.
I think she felt guilty for the fact that she'd split up with him. And obviously he was still keeping her there by saying he was going to kill himself all the time.
Eventually, Lorna decides to start internet dating again, something that angers Mills.
He'd refer to her as a slut, he'd suggest that her behaviour was immoral, all the while doing exactly the same with women online. It shows what a hypocrite he was, but at the same time it starts to indicate the jealousies, the paranoia and the aggression he was starting to build towards Lorna.
He didn't like that because he was in the house. He turned around and said, you can't talk to these people while I'm here. You have to wait until I go and then you can start doing this.
We said to her, it's got nothing to do with him. Why don't you just tell him to mind his own business? It's like you want to start afresh. You want to meet someone that actually respects who you are.
In 2008, to Louise's delight, Mills finally moves out.
I was so happy. And I thought finally she can, sort her life out again. She can get rid of him and then just start afresh.
But Mills is not finished with Lorna. He is obsessed with her and appears determined to have some sort of control over her life. He starts a chilling campaign of stalking her on the internet.
He created a fake profile on Facebook. On that profile, he called himself Charlie Manning. He added her as a friend and he started a dialogue by email with her.
Mum had said that she'd met someone through Facebook called Charlie Manning. She said, he'd been saying that he was a property developer, he's got a house, he'd really treat her like a princess.
Lorna has no idea Mills is Charlie Manning.
He could still watch over Lorna. He could still find out things about her life. So because she let Charlie into her life, she was allowing Mills to still control her life, albeit she wasn't aware of that.
She took it all in too much and she believed every single thing that he was saying and was telling her that he could give her everything that she ever wanted. Someone that could look after her. And I think that's what she'd always dreamed of, and I think it just got to her head too much and she became a bit naive and a bit gullible, really.
Even though she was in her 40s, when it comes down to love, she was still looking for the one. And even though people think you should know better, We don't. When it comes down to love, we trust our instinct, we trust our hopes. And very often that means that we make decisions based on hope and not based on reality.
Charlie Manning encourages Lorna to talk about Mills and is sympathetic towards him.
She'd even started to confide in him about Cliff, saying how he'd threatened her in the past.
Unbeknown to Lorna, Charlie Manning's motives become clear. He wants her to keep in contact with Mills.
He said, you must always keep contact with Cliff, because he really needs you, and you really need him as a friend.
Lorna does what Manning says, and she retains contact with Mills, cleaning his flat for him weekly. Meanwhile, Louise is beginning to have doubts over who Manning really is.
Charlie Manning's profile picture was just a white background with a red love heart. Didn't have any other pictures. He had about 3 friends. Not that many. And when she showed me some of the messages that he'd sent, I was reading through them and I kind of looked at her as if to say, do you really believe this? Like, it seems a bit too good to be real.
Lorna shares her intimate secrets with Manning and describes to him how Mills wasn't very manly, a reference to his impotence.
Because Lorna will speak in negative terms about Mills, when he hears the things that she's saying, the derogatory things that she's saying, that will have an effect of increasing his anger. And that's when he will start to imagine what he wants to do. That's when he will start to think about hurting her seriously because she doesn't want him. She doesn't like him. And this is where we see in this type of stalking, in this type of domestic abuse, it's that if I can't have you, no one else will.
Stalking is a voyeuristic experience. You want to see every movement that somebody makes. You want to know what's going on. You become fixated on that individual. And very often this leads itself to more sinister behaviours.
Forensic psychologist Dr Keri Nixon has done research into stalking when profiling serious violent offenders.
The most dangerous relationship in the stalking relationship is the ex-partner. Those are the cases that are more likely to end in severe violence or murder. Ignore, ignore, ignore. That is the best advice you can ever give to a victim of stalking, because even the slightest response, the stalker will distort that in their mind and see it as a positive, and that will make them want to carry on more.
In July 2010, after her mum has been chatting to Charlie Manning for more than a year, Louise raises her concerns.
I had turned round to my mum and said, "Are you sure this isn't Cliff talking to you?"
They tell her that she shouldn't have this conversation with him on the net and that ideally she should end it, but Lorna doesn't believe it. Lorna thinks that Charlie Manning is her confidant. And we have to remember that she's emotionally invested and spent time in this relationship. She doesn't want to think it's Clifford Mills.
It's a very cruel way to work, very manipulative. Just, to bring someone in that far after such a long time and get them to tell you their most personal feelings about somebody else. I think it's just evil. It's pure evil.
Lorna is in love with a man who does not exist. But when she finally breaks away and moves on with her life, her past comes back to haunt her.
She goes in. That's the last time she ever came back out.
I knew that was the end.
It's October 2010, and Lorna Smith has been chatting online to Charlie Manning for more than a year. But what she doesn't know is that Manning is actually Clifford Mills, her ex-partner. However, there is a flaw in Mills' plan, as Lorna wants to meet up with Manning.
She had spoke about wanting to meet Charlie Manning a couple of times, and I kind of turned around and said to her, but you don't know what he looks like, you don't know. It could be anybody.
Realising this relationship is not going anywhere, Lorna meets someone through a work colleague. In January 2011, Lorna tells Manning she's met somebody else and ends their online relationship.
We know that Manning is Mills, so he instantly is aware that she's involved with a new person, and this will have caused him a great deal of anguish because he didn't want her to move on.
On the 22nd of January, Lorna introduces her new partner to her family at her grandson's birthday party.
As soon as she walked in, she was glowing. Even when she was with my dad, I don't think I'd ever seen her glowing as much as she was. And it was such a nice atmosphere, and it was nice to have her there and for her to not just be sitting there and thinking about what she had to go and do. And, you know, she was free in a way.
You know, I had the cake out, had music, and kids were dancing, and Lorna was sitting next to me taking pictures and just being happy. It was a happy day. It really was.
Louise and her fiancé Giuseppe have 2 children, and Louise is 3 months pregnant. Lorna idolises her grandchildren.
Her life revolved around the grandchildren. She just loved spending time with them and loved spoiling them, and the kids adored her.
Mills asks Lorna to help him with some paperwork at his flat. Lorna tells Louise she's going to cut all ties with Mills.
She told me that day that she was going to see Cliff on the 2nd of February because she wanted to break everything off because she just wanted to move on.
Mills realises that his plan has failed and he's losing control over Lorna.
That's going to make him panic. He's got no control. He's not going to be able to see what she's doing. He can't talk to her. This is actually the end. At this point, he realises there's no chance. She's moving on, she's happy with somebody else, and that makes him angry, it makes him frustrated, it makes him panic, and it makes him plan to hurt her.
Mills' obsession with Lorna is tipping him over the edge. In the days before Lorna's planned visit, he begins plotting to kill her.
We know that he's spent time researching how to commit a murder, and he's actually looked at buying a samurai sword, a pickaxe handle, and also thought about the best ways to actually commit the crime.
He went on the internet and he went to some forum, and he came up with this website, How to Kill a Human Being, How to Kill a Person, where other people just talk to each other. That's what makes me sick. You just think, there's an internet site where other murderers could actually interact. It's like a website like Facebook, but for murderers.
It had a list of like weapons that you can use, like the pickaxe handle, kitchen knife, crossbow.
And essentially, whilst Lorna doesn't know this right now, he's already killed her.
Mills is losing everything, and he won't let that happen.
Separation is a known risk factor in domestic abuse, and in this case, what we see is not just the separation of one relationship, but the separation of 2. It's the separation of his actual relationship and then the separation of his online relationship, which means that he will have nothing, and that is something that he can't face. So as well as separation, we've got threats. We've got stalking, we've got control, there's emotional abuse, there's extreme jealousy. So we have all these risk factors. We have them in combination, we have them converging at the same time. And that's building up to when she's going to go round and tell Mills to get out her life.
There's a sense that her happiness burnt him, that he couldn't bear to see her enjoying her life again. And he wanted to destroy that.
The point where she's going to tell him for good it's over, that is going to be the point that he will kill her.
On the morning of February the 2nd, Mills waits for Lorna to arrive. And he's on Facebook, but his status update is chilling.
The last days he updated, which was about an hour, 2 hours before he killed Lorna, the status said, Stan is a and I cannot stop him.
The fact that he disassociates himself, the fact that he blames somebody else in this case a character makes him even more dangerous because it's not his fault. Therefore, he's not responsible for his actions. Therefore, if anything happens, it wasn't him. Somebody else made him do it, which means that he won't take responsibility. An offender who doesn't take responsibility is a dangerous offender.
Lorna arrives at Mills' flat at 3 p.m.
She went to go and see him, and her boyfriend wanted to go with her. And she was like, no, I'll be okay. I'll be all right. I'll be back in an hour. I won't be gone long. She goes in. That's the last time she never came back out.
"14 hours later, Clifford Mills hands himself in, but blames someone else for the murder.
He turns up at St Thomas's Hospital, claiming to be a psychiatric case and suggesting that Stan has murdered Lorna. So not only has he premeditated the attack, he's also premeditated the reason for the attack. He has absolutely no desire to take on the consequences of his crime. In his mind, he thinks he's planned the perfect murder.
It's Sunday, February the 3rd, 2011, and Louise's life is about to change forever. Giuseppe's family find out from Lorna's mother that she's been murdered, and they go round to tell Louise.
They were all looking at each other, trying to decide who was going to tell me the news.
And I just looked at Louise, and before I could say anything, Louise just burst into tears and she's like, what's wrong? It's a nightmare. I never thought that could ever happen to my family. Saying it to a girl who's got 2 kids, day before her birthday, telling her that her mum's been killed. So she started screaming the house down. She jumped on the sofa, started shouting at her mum's name. My mum's cradling her and everything, and just broke her heart. Really, really broke her heart.
I just broke down at that point, and I couldn't talk.
I want to break down in tears, but I want to stay strong for Louise and the kids, but I'm just holding it in.
Although it hasn't been confirmed by the police, the family think they know who is responsible.
I just had this feeling, like something saying to me, it was Cliff. Cliff's hurt Lorna. It's got to be out of jealousy, it's got to be. My brother's like, yeah, I've got the same feeling. Then I think it was that night when we got a phone call from the police, and they said they arrested a guy that handed himself in called Clifford Mills. And it was him, confessing murder.
I was just in so much shock, because it was just like, I know who's done it. I know where she was. And it was just, it made it harder, the fact that I knew who'd done it. She must have been terrified to know that she had no chance to fight back because he was so much bigger than her.
On her 22nd birthday, while she is 3 months pregnant, Louise has to identify her mother's body.
When I saw her face, I started crying, but it just still didn't feel like it was her there. It just felt like a dummy had been put on the bed. We couldn't see any of her injuries. She was covered right up to her chin. But she had all of her hair pushed back off her face because they'd had to remove some of her hair where she had been hit on the head. And the worst bit was when the curtains closed and I had to say bye. for the last time. And I knew that that was the end.
Meanwhile, Mills is continuing to blame his alter ego for Lorna's brutal murder.
He pleaded not guilty to murder, hoping to get manslaughter with diminished responsibility.
This is about him presenting a way in which he can try and get away with it. It wasn't me. This is a man who likes to control. This is a man who likes to be in power. This is a man who thinks he is invincible. And he thinks he will get away with this murder.
The trial is delayed after Mills goes on hunger strike, determined to get away with murder. But will the jury see through him?
He knew what he'd done. He just wanted to show that he was a madman.
She had no chance. No chance at all.
He knew what he was doing. He'd planned it all. He's just a devil.
In January 2012, just under a year after Lorna Smith's brutal murder, her ex-partner Clifford Mills is on trial for her murder at the Old Bailey, London. But the trial has been delayed as Mills is assessed for mental health issues.
He'd been trying to claim that he was crazy with Stan, so he'd gone on hunger strike.
So he probably just thought to himself, right, I'm gonna go on hunger strike. I'm not gonna eat. I'm gonna make myself look really ill, be really ill, where people will probably just feel sorry for him and be like, oh, you know what? No, we need to keep an eye on him. Keep him on suicide watch, and he's gonna harm himself. He probably feels so bad what he's done that he's trying to punish himself. Clearly wasn't the case. Bastard had no remorse in the first place.
It's pathetic. He knew what he'd done. He just wanted to show the judge, everyone, that he was a madman.
He goes into court in a wheelchair. He pleads not guilty for diminished responsibility. He is controlling everybody around him.
The court hears how, on the 2nd of February 2011, Clifford Mills murders Lorna in his flat in Brixton.
She'd gone to the toilet, and as she'd come out, he'd attacked her and hit her over the head with the pickaxe handle.
When she fell to the ground, she must have fell down in such a force that she fractured her wrist. She gets up, tries to defend herself.
And then he picked up the kitchen knife and stabbed her in her torso. And then my mum was pleading for help, asking him to help her.
She had no chance. No chance at all.
And that's when he cut her throat, sorry.
Mills stabs Lorna 7 times before cutting her throat.
While she's bleeding to death on the floor, he's basically crouched down and said, "Die, you." That's what he said to her. And then just covered her face with a plastic bag.
Dr Keri Nixon believes that the act of covering the victim's face is common in familial homicide.
Often when the murderer covers up the face of the victim, that's generally when it's somebody who's had a relationship with the victim prior to killing them.
Mills carries on his murder ritual.
He'd put Oasis, Stop the Clocks on repeat. while he was getting ready to leave.
This was planned. It was calculated. It was callous. He researched it. He thought about what he was going to do, how he was going to do it, even to the point of planning what music to put on. Every detail of this murder was planned.
And in a final insult, Mills steals from Lorna.
He'd also gone through all my mum's belongings in her bag and tipped it all over the sofa and taken her money and her bank card out of her purse.
Mills has 2 bags readily packed and he leaves the house, dumping his murder clothes in Hammersmith before making his way to Soho. He spends the next 12 hours drinking, using Lorna's money. At 5 a.m. the next morning, he goes to St. Thomas's Hospital and confesses to the murder, blaming his alter ego, Stan.
I just think he's pure evil. Pure evil. He knew what he was doing. He'd planned it all. He's just the devil.
I hate him. He's a monster. I really hope he rots in hell. I really, really do.
On February the 3rd, 2012, a year to the day after police found Lorna's body, the jury returns after just 90 minutes deliberating and find Clifford Mills guilty of murder. He is sentenced to life imprisonment and ordered to serve a minimum of 21 years. Mills shows no emotion.
I just turned and looked at him and he just sat there staring straight at the judge with no expression on his face whatsoever, no remorse.
And at this point, Lorna's family stand up and shout, "Lorna's memory will live on in all of us," letting Mills know that even though he's killed her, she's not going to be forgotten. And unlike him, a guy who has very few friends and is very isolated and will probably grow very old in prison and die alone, Lorna will always be loved.
Why did Clifford Mills commit this horrendous crime?
He killed Lorna because she didn't want him. He killed Lorna because he didn't want her to have anybody else. He killed Lorna because he was a domestic abuser and a stalker, and he didn't want to lose Lorna. That's what he did, and then he wanted to cover it up. He destroyed that woman because she didn't want him.
For Louise, the loss of her mum is immeasurable.
Oh, I miss my mum like you wouldn't believe. I miss talking on the phone to her every day. I miss the fact that she's not going to see my children grow up. And she's never going to meet her youngest 2 grandchildren. And the fact that he doesn't realise how many lives he's ruined because he's killed my mum.
In the years since her mum's murder, Louise has had her 4th child with Giuseppe, and the love for her children has pulled her through.
My kids have helped me get through all of this. If I didn't have them, there's no way that I could be as strong as I am now.
Lorna was cremated, and her ashes take pride of place in Louise's family home.
It has helped me to be able to have her ashes with me, because it's like she's still there. It's like I haven't had to get rid of her completely.
Since her mother's death, Louise has made sure that Lorna is present every single day in her children's lives. She has the ashes at her home and the children talk to Nana. For Louise, that's really important, that Lorna's love lives on. She was a really caring grandma a really doting mother, and it's essential for her family to ensure that that's never forgotten.
And it is happy memories of her mother that Louise shares with her children.
I don't want them to remember my mum for something bad. I want them to remember her as their nan who had fun with them and just all the good times.
Where is she now?
In the sky.
In heaven.
In heaven. I love Nanny.